So I'm getting ready for an art show that's coming up in our community. It's a postcard art show, so all artwork has to be 4 by 6 inches, two-dimensional, and then you can submit up to 10 works. So I'm starting to work on focusing on creating some smaller pieces. So I grabbed a small piece of mixed media paper that I had cut down for a previous project, thinking that it was 4 by 6. It's not. It's actually, I think, 6 by 5. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not 4 by 6. So in the end, I did have to trim this one down. So if you are a paper size aficionado and you're looking at this going, Elizabeth, that's not a 4 by 6 inch piece of paper. Yeah, I didn't realize that while I was making this. So I made the difficult decision to trim it down after the fact so that it would fit the criteria for the show. So in today's art video, I wanted to play around with my Posca paint pens. I got my brush pens out just because I like working back into my pieces a lot, and my colored pencils. I just kind of wasn't sure where I was going for this one, but I knew that I was going to be working small, and I knew I wanted to play with a lot of color, and I kind of just wanted to see where it went from there. And I've really been enjoying starting with the paint pens and then working back in with brush pen or colored pencil or both. So that was kind of the aim, and then I went for colors that just spoke to me today and made me feel happy. And I've been having a lot of fun playing with color combinations that aren't my typical go-tos, and also using some of my favorite colors in different tints and shades, and then playing around with what can I pair with those that would kind of add some interesting drama and a nice visual effect. And then true to my art process, it truly is an intuitive process for me. Like, I just really enjoy coming up with a starting point and then letting the piece guide me and kind of see where things end up. So, and I'm always influenced by kind of what else I've been doing. I really love breaking up backgrounds with shapes, but doing more organic shapes like this that are a little kind of wonky is something new. So I was really also trying to take this as an opportunity to push myself creatively and kind of see what new things could come out of it, which kind of is a great thing, because if this didn't turn out as a piece I wanted for the postcard art show, that's okay. Like, I spent some time, I had some fun in the art studio, I would have played, I would have made something, and making something today was better than nothing. And so that's great. Can you part with it? And in the end, spoiler alert, I love this. I love this piece so much that everything going in the postcard art show is for sale. So I have to kind of decide what 10 pieces do I want to put in, and am I willing to sell them? And it's funny because everything I've been creating lately for the show, I'm really falling in love with. So that's a whole other thing, when you create art that you love and you're trying to figure out, we'll see what happens with this piece. So now that I have all of the dark blue rings in, I'm going to go ahead with a brush pen and do some lighter blue on the inside of each of those. I love doing repetition and kind of creating pattern too. Like, pattern is a really big part of what I've been interested in lately, especially in the backgrounds or in big open spaces. So a lot of my stuff is incorporating patterns in some way. And it's a really enjoyable process to create a pattern like this. And it looks really cool, I think. I'm really enjoying the pieces that I'm making lately. So I get a nice light blue ring inside of all of my dark blues. And now I'm going back into the light lilac section and kind of adding some different design details. So I've got some circles that are running in an arc that kind of mirror the curve of this shape on the page. And then kind of doing some bold line work. I truly don't have a plan. This is just kind of playing and experimenting and seeing what happens, kind of deciding what the piece needs from here. And it's interesting because here I am using my paint pen and going in and adding light blue inside the dark purple circles, which mirrors putting the light blue inside the dark blue rings in the background. And it wasn't at all in the process of making this that was a conscious choice to like have that repetition but have the variation to it. So I love this. I love going back and kind of watching my own process videos and kind of dissecting and just being surprised by these things that were unconscious, subconscious decisions at the time, but makes so much sense when I look at it now, like through like, the distance of a recording of yourself. So if that's something that you haven't done before, it might be really fun for you. It's a little cringy at first, but in the end, like, you don't have to share it. But I highly recommend at some point that you videotape yourself creating anything, whatever you create, and then watch it back. It'll give you some really interesting insight into your creative process, the choices that you make in the moment, especially when, well, whether it's something you're planned out in advance or whether it's something like this where you're kind of creating on the go and just you're in the moment and one decision leads to another decision to another. It's really interesting to be able to step back from ourselves and kind of see our brains at work and our creativity in the flow. So as I continue to go on through this piece, I just kept adding details as it seemed fit. Like putting the dots around these ring shapes in the background is probably a carryover from a class that I recently did on Skillshare, where I was kind of playing with the ideas of that Skillshare teacher's creative process and the marks that they made as I kind of explored some new ways to work. And then slowly, since I've taken that class, I'm seeing it kind of morph and twist and embed itself with my own style through my own creative artistic lens, which is really exciting to kind of see your creativity and your artistic process change and adapt and grow over time, but through the influence and inspiration of others. And that's what life's all about, right? Like we get inspired by everything around us, and then it weaves itself into the fabric of our creativity in new, fun, colorful ways. So that's what's happening in this piece, really. Like this piece is kind of the next stage of me as a creative artist and kind of taking all of these ideas and things that I've learned recently and what's getting me excited and putting it into pieces like this, which is incredibly exciting and makes me really thrilled to get back to the art table to create some more and kind of see where else this is going to lead. So at this point, I decided I wanted some warmer colors. I wanted to kind of play with complements. So orange and blue are complements. So I started going in with colored pencil. It wasn't quite filling it the way I wanted it to. Went to brush pen. That wasn't really getting the job done either. Jumped back to colored pencil. So now we start to see, the ideas are connecting. There's more information on the page. So there's more information influencing the decisions that you make, which is another interesting part of intuitive art making, because before it was very different. Like there was kind of a different stage of the process where I was influenced by other things and, whatever kind of came out of my brain was what went on the page and just jumped on the idea. Now I'm getting a little bit more selective and choosy. And that happens too, right? Like we start to overthink a little bit, but that's good. That's good to kind of make some decisions and really kind of take control of the creative process in some ways and kind of play around with that. So I'm filling in the center of my background rings with orange. So adding that really nice warm pop of orange to bounce off the blue and have a nice complementary relationship happening there. And then I decided to circle back to the brush pens and going over the colored pencil this way. Normally I would work the opposite. I would do brush pen and then I would do colored pencil on top. But this time, working the reverse way really worked better to kind of get the bold orange that I was going for the center of each of those shapes. And the bonus of using the colored pencil with the brush pen, in whatever order you do it, is that it kind of helps alleviate some of the streakiness that you can get from using brush pens, because they're not like a paint pen, they're transparent. So the more you layer up, the darker that's going to be, which is great in some instances. But here where I'm going for kind of a bold pop graphic look, I don't want the brush strokes. Like I really want it to be a nice solid orange. And now it's just a matter of some finishing touches. So I have some interesting value, right? Like I've got the white in the background, I've got the two values of the purple, I've got the light blue, the dark blue, I've got the bold orange, which is on the darker end of things, but it still felt a little unfinished. So I decided to take a black fine liner and trace around the orange shapes just to kind of help give a little bit more pop between the orange and the light blue sections, just to kind of see how that went. These are some like dual brush pens that I bought before. They're great brush pens. They're a different brand than the other ones that I have laid out for this project, but this was the only black fine liner that I had in easy reach. And it's not such a great black fine liner, so I did have to go over it a couple different times. Like it just kind of wasn't holding up, but I think it's because I have the colored pencil down first. If I was just trying to ink around brush pen and Posca paint pens, I wouldn't be having a trouble at all. Like it would be working really great. So just if you do play with colored pencil and brush pen and fine liners, you know, and all that in your mixed media practice, just know you're gonna have to work a little bit harder for those black lines to get to show up. And then I wanted to add a little bit more texture to the inside of the circles in my center shape. So this is something I've started doing a lot of. You can see I did it in the purple too, coming off of those kind of curved lines. I just am really enjoying the play of parallel lines. So circling back to just whatever brings me joy and happiness and whatever helps make it feel resolved. And then just adding a few other pops of black here and there just to kind of give some finishing touches. When I first began the piece, I was really struggling to get my Posca paint pens to really fill in a solid sort of way. So the last thing I did was to go back in with my colored pencil and a little purple Posca to just kind of fill in some of the streaky bits on the first purple section that I laid down. And then the great thing about an intuitive piece like this, especially an abstract one, it's done whenever it feels finished. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.